Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to respond, just in brief, to the comments from the Honourable David Parker. I accept that my SOP does take the bill backwards a step, and that the bill is deliberate in removing the requirement for four-sided fencing and instead replacing that very clear and simple requirement with more of a performance-based standard. But I would just reiterate that, for example, Water Safety New Zealand, who have spent decades trying to improve the safety, water safety for all New Zealanders, particularly including children, were strongly opposed to the removal of the fencing requirement and replacing it instead with some performance-based standard. They said that there was no public policy rationale for making that change, except for that already described by the officials, which is to reduce compliance costs for pool owners and for the councils. But from the point of view of child safety, it is a retrograde step to replace a simple and clear conception of what a fencing around a pool is, what it actually is, in people's own minds in the normal sort of daily conversation about that, with a performance-based standard that says you can have all sorts of different kinds of things as long as it has the same effect. And given we know that there was already very poor monitoring of pool fencing by councils, that across the country there is this disparity around councils about whether or not they know where the pools are, whether they are undertaking regular inspections, whether they're applying the rules or not properly. Given that we know that many of the drownings that have occurred have been as a result of degraded fencing infrastructure, so degraded latches, degraded fencing, failure to comply with the very simple legislation that's already in place. This bill now allows more and more options for pool owners to use that may well not meet any kind of performance-based standard, may not at all provide any degree of real protection for children. And because they are relying then on their own interpretation of the law, and the law is softened to give them lots more options, and the enforcement procedures of local councils that we know are already unable to enforce the current law as simple and clear as it is. So why then would we put in place legislation that actually entrenches in the law the very risks that failure to comply with the previous law created in terms of risk to children for drowning? So there really is no rationale for that. I mean, there's no explanation for why this is a better system. The only thing I heard from, the only excuse I heard from National during the Select Committee was that people with infinity pools didn't like the way fences looked. I mean, that's not a justification for putting more and more children at risk. So I get that there'll be members of this Parliament who don't want to support my SOP because it actually puts in place, re-establishes the clear fencing rules that this bill has been designed to remove. But there is actually there's no rationale for that policy change. There is no, and there certainly is no evidence to show that a performance-based approach is going to provide even the same degree of safety that the current fencing rules provide, let alone a greater degree of safety. And if we had a choice, surely providing the greater safety is the choice we should make. Thank you, Mrs. Chair.
Mika Whaitiri.
Yeah.